What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Facts Boyce, and this is another episode of the Facts Project. Today's episode, special guest, Hilton George, founder and CEO of BlerdCon. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me, man. How you doing?
I am doing absolutely well, man. I'm a fan of the con, and I'm happy that you're here because for a lot of people that do not know, this weekend, BlerdCon is going in full effect.
It is. Oh, snap. I got to go, brother. No, this interview is over. No, stop. Yes, it is this weekend. It's a couple days away, man. It's almost surreal.
Absolutely, man. So for the most part, for a lot of people that do not know, what was the history of BlerdCon in its inception?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people who have spent any time in the con space, you know, we often would go to conventions, especially if you didn't live in a major metropolitan city with a diverse population or even a chocolate city. And you would go to cons and you would see not us represented on the guest list and not us represented in the panels and not us represented in the subject matter of the panels. And you wouldn't see as many of us in the vendor halls and in the crowds, you know, and that whole piece of, you know, where am I as a Black nerd, if that's even a name that I recognize, depending on who I am and where I live, you know, where am I reflected in the things that I love? Anime, you know, manga, you know, video games, comic books, cosplay, you name it. And, you know, I had gone through a phase of going to cons. I had gone from New York to Atlanta. I'd probably hit about maybe 40 or 50 conventions. I had gone con crazy and I was just really enjoying my life as a cosplayer. And I just looked around and I said, you know, wouldn't it be dope if there was a convention out there that reflected, you know, the Black nerd perspective and focused on diversity and inclusion and representation. And, you know, I took it upon myself to kind of incept this idea, not really knowing where it would go or if it could go, and just started, you know, putting together the baseline pieces. And I called my now co-founder and college buddy, Hassan, you know, who, you know, he's been to law school, you know, he's run businesses, he knows about incorporation and all this stuff, and said, look, here's my idea, here's my pitch, you know, I want to make sure that we get this, you know, incorporated, and I want to make sure the LLC is straight. I want to make sure that the copyrights are straight. I want to make sure the logos and the domain names and everything is locked in, venues, contracts, and everything before anyone even hears the name BlerdCon. And we spent about a year just putting the bones together. You know, I mean, it takes that long before you launch a business. And then, you know, we came out with the promotion starting in summer of 2016. And it just kind of went out there and it got a life of its own. It's always been a convention where no matter who you are projecting onto that name, whether you've been to the convention or not, you know, your own ideals and your own dreams and your own best, you know, wishes and images, which means on one hand, it's a marketer's dream. You know, you really want, you know, your product to inspire people to think and project themselves into it and see themselves in the product. But at the same time, it also sets the bar very high because we have a lot of high ideals in the community about what a dope convention is or what an unconventional convention should look like. And so you got a lot of bullets to hit. You know, everybody wants the hottest this and the funnest that and the most excitement. And you know, so we put together this convention and it has just gathered a life of its own. And we have created a perfect vehicle where new ideas, you know, diversity, inclusion, Blackness is able to be injected into this fun nerd space. And it feels seamless and it feels organic. And the people fill in the spaces that we create and make their own engagements and they make their own connections and their own impressions and they inject themselves into the convention. So when they look at the convention, they see themselves reflected back at them. And I think that's what if there is a magic to be had about BlerdCon, is kind of what is the magic of BlerdCon. And this is our year 4 rotation of the convention, even though this is the 5th year of the convention as a whole, because as you know, we had to skip year 2020 for COVID.
Right. And I remember, I think it was, 2 years ago when in 2019, when the last photos of BlerdCon happened. And it was like almost like this social media interaction where people were coming down the escalator. It was just like dancing. Everybody was just like having a good time. Cosplayers here, cosplayers there. Everybody was talking about it. And it was almost like, okay, we've just hit this like stratospheric level. And
Yeah.
then here comes COVID.
Oh man, listen. Every convention, if you look at the history of cons, and if you look at the records or talk to anyone who's been in the con space for a long time, they will tell you about some of the biggest conventions you know of. That when they started, they were small. They were 400 or 500 people.
Yeah.
They might have been at the Holiday Inn day room to start, or at some college campus in the student union to start, before they became a Dragon Con or an Otakon or a San Diego Comic Con or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And every convention, they kind of humble along, they kind of do their thing, but then they hit a critical mass, and then they hit their breakout year. And that's the year where like everyone who knows somebody has told somebody, and everybody hits, this top peak level of FOMO, and they jump from 2,000 people to 8,000 people in 1 or 2 years. This was going to be our breakout year in 2020, I believe, because just the uniqueness of the convention, cut across all fandoms and all geographies. And just like you said, the pictures and the images, so many of the people, these are not professionals. Most of this video is coming from people's iPhones and stuff. So it wasn't like some overproduced video that just went viral. It was a combination of moments that were captured and going out into social media and on people's profiles and in their conversations. And we were just like, man, we got to be ready. 2020 is going to be the breakout year. We're getting calls from the studios. Everybody's trying to do something with us. And we did a lot of that stuff virtually anyway, over the summer, the work with HBO, Warner Brothers, TNT, et cetera, et cetera. But this was the year that we were going to be like in the con space with it all. And so we were really, really excited. But, it's a once in a generation type of a calamity.
Yeah.
A terrorist attack wouldn't have done it. A weather calamity wouldn't have done it. An economic turndown wouldn't have done it. But, a virus,
Hey, you
come on.
can't do nothing with it.
You can't do nothing with it, man. Nothing with it. God's raisins in my potato salad. That's what that was. God sprinkled some raisins in the potato salad.
Oh man, and
there
everybody
you go.
just looked at him and was like, "Nah, yeah, we're not showing up for that." but as far as 2021 is concerned, now with a few days away, what are the precautions that you basically have taken in order to get yourself live and ready to go outside of the guidelines that are meant for COVID in this era?
Listen, as a con runner and a con owner, it's a position that's fairly unique, and it's really hard for people to put themselves in my shoes because there's only a handful of people that are in shoes like this. On one hand, you think about safety in the abstract, and you think about health in the abstract, that they are supposed to feel safe and they're supposed to feel protected, and they're supposed to be safe and protected. And that is your responsibility. It's a whole different thing. So me and the team, across all departments, we just came together and said, listen, we could play around with this. We could play halvesies and split the difference, and we could come up with some policy that's not going to tick anybody off or trigger anybody's, inner QAnon or inner Hotep or whichever, end of the conspiracy spectrum you may be on. And we could play it safe while not being safe. And the only thing I could think of is I've seen people doing that Facebook check-in or that Instagram check-in from the hospital with the tubes coming out of them because they got COVID.
It's true.
I've seen people do the posts where they're in the ICU with someone they love who's dying of COVID. And the idea that something like that could happen to someone that we invited into our space would just kill me. Like it would and I said, you know what? We are going to do vaccine only. Yep. And I know there's going to be some folks that are going to vehemently disagree with that. And we're going to get accused of, they're going to throw everything else at us. There's going to be a whole quadrant of the community that's not going to be happy with that. I said, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to be unpopular to that group in order to have safety for the majority. So to your question, one, we are 100% vaccine only for all adults 16 and older. The only reason we're not 12 and up is because they did not change the rule for 15 and 16 and up until just a couple of months ago, which wasn't quite enough time in the window for
Right.
kids to do their 2 vaccinations, et cetera, 2 injections, et cetera, et cetera. So kids 15 and younger can come in with a negative COVID test taken or the results being less than 48 hours old and can come in with that. But it's pretty much it. You're either 15 years or younger and you've got a vax test, or some people are actually vaccinated. That's fine too. 16 and up, fully vaccinated, both shots, COVID vaccine card to show at registration to get your credentials and be able to come into the con space. And on top of all of that, the Hyatt is doing, evening cleanings. They are doing disinfecting. We're going to have our disinfecting stations. Obviously, it's a team effort, meaning that the community that is coming to the con is going to be asked to take their extra precautions because it's a mask mandate. For
As
the
they
entire
should.
inside of the convention space, you have to wear a mask. And we do have outside spaces that are a part of the con space for this every reason. So, the food truck rally's got a performance stage, and we're doing some performances and music and stuff out there. 15 food trucks, a little mini car show is going to happen out there. There's a whole lot of stuff late breaking.
Right.
So there's going to be outside space where people are going to be a little bit more free, a little bit more relaxed, but it's outdoors. But when you're in the space, fully vaccinated, mask, boom. And then obviously, we're telling people, wash your hands, you have to be conscious of your interactions.
Right.
We are going to have, a great time, and we are very physical. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to BlerdCon. It's very emotional.
It
People are
is.
crying.
Mm.
I'm crying usually at some point because there's some, emotional moments happening. But at the same time, it's like, okay, just be conscious of what you're doing and how you're interacting, and just be safe. And we'll come through this. And in 2 weeks after BlerdCon, you're not going to see a whole bunch of people checking in from the ICU saying, oh, BlerdCon got me, or I got the blurred crud, or something crazy like
Right.
that. And everyone will be safe. And this is the most important piece, man. James, I'm telling you, other conventions are watching BlerdCon.
Mm.
I'm in conversations with the con runners of huge conventions all across the country that are asking me, how are you doing your check-ins? How are you doing your safety checks? How are you checking credentials? How are you keeping your surfaces safe? How are people reacting to, the evolving news coming from the CDC versus, you guys not changing your rules for BlerdCon?
Right.
All of that stuff. And when they see that we can come through this and be successful, not only are you going to see better rules and better posture from other conventions, but there may be some conventions this fall that might feel like they could actually happen. And this could be the thing that ushers conventions back for the
Right.
fall. And so we try to do it right because there's a lot riding on it.
Yep, because convention season, it's a season for a reason. There's a time frame amount around the year where a lot of us get together and want to see possibly like guests that we haven't seen in a very long time. We want to realize that the nostalgia is there. We want to see our favorite cosplays. We want to see our favorite panels and everything like that, and just have those talking points. And to be in that open space and to feel comfortable is the most important thing. And basically, from what you put forth, it seems like it's it's a home run. I mean, I realize that you have a lot of precautions going
Yes.
into it, but
Oh,
there's
yes.
there's a reason. There's a reason for the season, man.
Well, let me tell you, when you throw that rule out, you got there's a very, very, very vocal minority of people that really, really rejected the idea and
Yeah.
are really not happy with us right now. It'll be okay by next year, but right now we're
Mhm.
not on the Christmas list. But the amount of people who were on the fence about going back to cons at all and about not going back to conventions until 2022, who
Mhm.
heard about the precautions we're taking, they were not as vocal, but they're voting with their purchases and their reservations. And the badge sales we have the highest pre-sale badges right now than we
Mhm.
have had in the entirety of our convention run. 2019, which is our biggest year, and we had like 6,500 attendees. We didn't have this many pre-sale badges sold.
Mm.
So there's definitely a safety factor out there that people find attractive, and I think it's actually going to work as far as people coming out, feeling good, feeling comfortable, and having a good time. And to your other point, man, another thing to remember is that a lot of us, and this is me, I didn't know about this. I couldn't even fathom it because we were living this different reality up until now,
Mhm.
is that my social life centered around cons in a way that I had no idea it did. I took completely for granted. I usually go to between 10 and 20 conventions a year.
Right.
And I usually go with friends or members of my BlerdCon team. And I see people from in Atlanta, I know who I'm looking for. From in New York, I know who I'm looking for. From in Philly, it's kind of like this thing. We go out to
Right.
eat, we go to after parties. And then when cons stopped, I'm sitting in my house and I'm like, oh, damn, I ain't got no friends. Like, I didn't know I didn't have any friends until I couldn't go to cons.
Right.
And I was sitting there like, wait, I only know like maybe 4 some people who live in the DC metro area, just, because even members of my team are out in Virginia Beach and
Right.
Delaware and Philly and North Carolina and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get back to cons just because I got to just see the people that I know.
Yep.
So a lot of us are socialized, our interactive socialized, physical is through the con space. And it reminded me of that just going through this last 18 months of big screen watching.
It's true. Now let's go back a year, because within that time frame that we weren't seeing each other, there was a lot happening, and it seemed like the Blerd community as a whole stuck together, made sure that they talked to each other virtually, had regardless of the Zoom meetings that I'm having with you in order to incorporate this podcast, they were doing Zoom meetings with each other. There was there was clicks that were happening on Instagram and on Twitter and everything like that. The community was thriving, but more so waiting for a vessel that was going to invite them in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what has happened is actually fairly remarkable. We are now, as a society, have evolved and integrated with technology as a connective means of socializing in a way that would have taken 5 to 10 years in a natural arc. We wouldn't have been here
Very true.
without COVID until like 2030 or something like that. Everybody has got a job where you technically could telework, but no one's going to send the whole workforce home, to do what you could do at home because, whatever. And obviously, we've had Skype for decades, or at least it seems like it. And I'd never really Skyped as a social thing. Like, why am I going to talk to my parents? I'm going to see them next week. Or, Craig and them up the street, I'll just go and hang out with them at happy hour, whatever. And so we were forced into this virtual space. And I mean, look at us. Like, I don't have a podcast, but I have a backdrop now. Like, I've put this as a backdrop to speak to.
This was all last year.
Right. I'm like, I never had a backdrop. Like, if somebody hit me on a call on Facebook or something like that, they get me and the kitchen behind me and whatever's on TV and whatever. And so we have evolved and adapted in a way that we would not have normally done. And I think that's what has kept us together. However, I do believe that it's a stopgap and not a new foundation. I think that this will be a new way for us to stay connected in between conventions and in between our physical hangouts where we're right face to face, and we will make stronger and better connections in between our direct interactions. But this will definitely not be a substitute long term for what we want to do in a physical space, because we are social physical beings, and we, especially Black people, I don't know if anybody out there, if you're not Black and you're watching this podcast, listen closely. Black people in large gatherings can be exhausting if you are not ready. And I'm talking about, come on, man. You know what I'm talking about, man. You will throw your shoulder out from dap because you're not just shaking hands and high-fiving. You are, and then you bringing it in, and you do it, and you do that 10, 20, 30, 100 times back to back for a day. And you're gonna be back in your room talking about, man, what did I do today? I don't know why.
Like I tore my rotator cuff.
I tore my rotator cuff because my man who just got off the Redskins training camp decided to dap me from across the room and yank me across the table, whatever. So that's kind of our physical space. We want to hug and we want to dap and we want to just have that tactile and that verbal and that visual experience. And so when the cons come back, I think we're going to see an amazing run on the con space. I think once people get vaccinated and people get comfortable with the protections that are in place, either from the vaccination in combination with masks and distancing, et cetera, you're going to see people coming back into the con space, from being completely backed up. And there's just going to be so much energy. That run might last 2 years, but I think there's going to be an opportunity there, both for con runners, con attendees, cosplayers, gamers, to really, really make something of that physical space that we have missed so much.
So let's talk about the what are the happenings and the events that are going to precede itself this coming weekend.
Well, we talk about evolution and adaptation. It's really interesting because in what is supposed to be a down year, we are doing more with this year's BlerdCon than any other BlerdCon we've ever done before. I have ideas that I have tried to put out there that just have not gotten traction because they weren't necessary. I've always wanted to do outdoor concerts and I wanted to do outdoor music. And, this is the second year technically of the food truck rally, that was necessitated by expansion and, the VIP section and us using more of the interior space of the convention and the hotel are all, just reactions to us trying to figure out how to make a safer, more spread out space. So to the first thing, we are having an actual live stage out on the food truck lot. There's going to be DJs, there's going to be some live performances. We're running that list up as we go. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be like right up to the minute, acts and DJs and performers that are going to be put on the schedule. I got my man, Chris IQ, who's the new music director for BlerdCon, who's putting together the show. Shout out to him. We've got an amazing cosplay contest with sponsors that come from the community. We got cosplay contest sponsor Urban Anime Lounge, which is a huge staple of the online Black nerd, space on Facebook and Instagram. And they're coming in and sponsoring the prize packs. So, we really are able to go all out with the prize packs with, the trophies and, the big checks and the whole 9 yards. And that's really great. We also have, we're doing a new promotion that I really think is amazing from this group called Black Cosplay Boosters, called 365 Days of Black Cosplay. And you're all familiar with 28 days of Black Cosplay. We're doing 365 days. Right?
What it should be.
So what we're doing is, if you're a cosplayer, you're coming to BlerdCon, we're going to take your picture. The BCB crew is going to get your information down. And every single day, starting the week after BlerdCon, we are going to have a new cosplayer with a bio going around the 365 days of this of that next year.
Amazing.
And obviously, we're doing video games. The Arcade Atrium is going to be huge. MagFest is sponsoring that. There's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 or 60 games between well, actually more than that. So we're looking at probably 70 if you're counting the consoles, the candies, the cabinet games.
Right, the
it's going to be amazing.
Tabletops too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny, if you were at 2019, we did something really cool. We had a DJ stage surrounded by video game consoles. So the DJ was playing music in the middle of this arcade. And you get like 100 or some people at any given moment getting up doing the Cupid Shuffle or the electric slide or doing a breakdance, challenges and stuff like that happening. But that's the integration of Black culture and Blackness in the nerd space that is like so literal and direct that I just love the music aspect. We're also bringing back the barbershop. Now, I don't know, were you at 2019?
I was not, and I heard about this.
Okay, listen, man, this was a shot in the dark, okay? And here's why. Just like you, like me, any other Black man out there, we go to a barbershop, you sit down in the long line for your barber, and there's a guy sitting here, might be a little new, but ain't nobody in his chair. And he'd be like, look, it might be an hour wait for me, man. I like to cut your hair and stuff, but my man Johnny over here is kind of new, but ain't nobody in his chair if you need to get you cut down. What do we do? Nah, I'm good. I'll wait. I don't want nobody I don't know. So here I am bringing two barbers that nobody knows, at least not as far as BlerdCon is concerned, to see if people are going to sit in the chair and get haircuts. And it turned out to be a huge hit. And this year we got this group called Clip Dart. And it's a nonprofit. It's nationwide, sponsored this new iteration of the shop that we're doing. And we got a guy coming in from Colorado. We got another guy coming in from Arizona. Amazing barbers. You can see them on our social media. They got videos and everything. They are really amazing. Mm-hmm. And they are going to be cutting hair at a discount for the whole weekend. So if you coming in to get, here's what I said, get your blade fade or your Aqualad lineup, you know, for your cosplay. You can come get that done in real time. We bought them legit barber chairs. You're not sitting in some, you know, stool. Right. It's like a legit barber chair and the whole 9 yards. And that's coming back. Obviously, the cosplay contest is going to be huge this year. Cosplays, people are working on it. If you're watching people in their social media, everybody's got good stuff cooking up. We got the 24-hour anime screening room as usual, the 24-hour RPG room playing. We've got the parties, man. Listen, you ready for this? Are you sitting down? You're actually sitting down. I can see.
I am sitting down.
Okay, check it out. First of all, we're doing a glow party both Friday and Saturday night. Okay. So, I mean, we're talking UV black lights everywhere. Your teeth are going to glow, right? This came about as an idea, obviously, because black lights and UV lights are supposed to help kill bacteria and microbes in the air and all this sort of stuff. And I said, well, that'd be a cool theme and a little nod to the health and safety of the space. So we're having black lights just running. It's a huge space. It's going to be a glow party. We got body painters and face painters with glow paint, you know, that you can't even see till the black lights hit it. It's going to be insane. And guess who's going to be spinning on that Friday? We got the Sailor Boom party. Have you ever heard of Sailor Boom?
I have heard of Sailor Boom.
Man, listen, these sisters get down, all the way down. It's a tandem DJ duo.
Yeah.
Hijinks and Dimples, they get together. Usually they're in Sailor Moon cosplay, but they do other cosplays too. And they just tear the whole building down. So when we build the building back up after they tear it down on Saturday, we're doing something that has never been done anywhere in any convention. We are doing a pre-dawn party. We're starting at 11. We're starting at 11 o'clock, and we're going to go till 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Wow.
You are going to be crawling on your belly out of that party, just drenched, just can't take no more. We are going to get every bit of party out of you that you have been building up for almost 2 years is going to come out this weekend at BlerdCon.
That's amazing. Now,
the next thing is this food truck rally is going to be so off the hook, man. We have got a curated list of barbecue and waffle cone and pizza and sliders and noodles and hot dogs and ice cream and, you know, and all black owned, by the way. Yeah. Food trucks are going to be at the Hyatt 24 hours a day serving you. This is some of the best food that you can get anywhere in the area. Anybody tells you, if you've ever been in the DC metro area, that food trucks have some of the best cuisine, bar none. This food is going to be some that you're going to have the best food you ever had at a con. And that's going to be from noon on Friday till 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. So that's going to be around the clock as well. We still have, believe it or not, even though it's been COVID, we still have almost 100 panels, workshops, and demos happening over the weekend. Okay, and I'm talking everything from, you know, learning how to do the bachata to fire spinning to, you know, you name it. It's going to be on the schedule. Just came out today, so if you go and look, you can see all the really cool stuff that's happening. This year, we even got a sponsor for something people have been asking for years and years and years, and I have not been able to bring it to you in the black way that I have always wanted to do it, and that's why it hasn't happened. So America, blame me. It's my fault. I'm being eccentric. But we are having a speed dating on Friday. And listen, black folks want to get it in. We have been waiting for it, and I finally got this sister who's local, who's got this app, this dating app, and she's going to be demoing it and using it for this thing. And here's the theme of it. I choose you. It is that Pokemon theme with the ball and everything. I was like, okay, all right. So people are going to be throwing Pokemons at the brothers and the sisters all. Like you see somebody.
Give them a Velcro shirt.
You know, let it be. And while I'm skipping a lot of stuff, okay, you know, vendor hall, you know, we got the community room with other conventions, and we got Karen Ashley as a guest. We got some amazing cosplay. We got Dax exclamation point. We got Violet Verse. We got, you know, Wreck-It Ronnie. We've got Yeliz coming almost directly from Australia, but now she's living in Florida, but we're her first American convention. All of this stuff is happening. But you got to remember that BlerdCon is 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Start at noon on Friday, and we do not turn the lights off and shut the doors until 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. So if you come to BlerdCon and you're waiting for the lights to go out and us to do this and push you out to space so you know when to go to sleep or when the time to eat or when is it, that's not going to happen. You're going to look up and it's going to be 4 a.m. You're going to be waiting for somebody to tell you you're up too late, and it's not going to happen.
Right.
So get your Red Bull, your Monster, your 5-hour energy, whatever you got to do, but be ready because we're going to keep the party's going to keep going.
I think that's one of the benefactors that basically sold everybody on BlerdCon. Like as far as conventions go, like the fact that we have a time limit to suffer through and just like do exactly what we need to do. Sometimes we don't realize how much is going on, and then all of a sudden 5 o'clock happens, and here comes security. So
doing this.
Yeah, doing this. Like, hey, come back tomorrow if you need to. I don't have a ticket tomorrow. So what? All right, like see you later. But one of the big things I remember from BlerdCon was the fact that, we're here. We're in the building and we're meeting people as we go, and they're from everywhere. And there's just no way of stopping the channel of people that are going along, the networking that's happening, the panels and the workshops, of course, because of course you've had the opportunity to keep your ear to the community within the past year. I know of certain friends of ours, Curtis Brown from Heads Nerds in Charge.
Yes.
That's one of my brothers. Of course, my brother Darnell Hicks from the Party Nerds. We've all been in line as far as just like passing on the word. Be like, hey, BlerdCon's coming up. This has also been in passing because we understood how much of an up and coming con it was 3 years ago. To where we're at right now, we only see the best of things going forward and how the future is going to perceive and just run rampant with this.
Yeah, when we first came out the box, again, we threw the kitchen sink at the con because we didn't know what was going to stick. There was so many ideas of what the ideal Black Nerd convention would be, and as a creator, as a podcaster, you get a feel for your audience and you kind of let them steer the direction. Like, oh, okay, that was something I thought would pop off, but didn't quite pop off the way I thought it would. But this thing over here I wasn't paying attention to really blew up. So next year we're going to lean in a little more of this, a little more of this, a little more of this. And it starts to refine. And you see that people are kind of like finding their groove. And I think that's the magic of the con space that we want to maximize, is that we're not micromanaging the day, even though we do have a lot of stuff going on that we are managing. What's really happening is that we're creating a space for people to come in, insert themselves, inject themselves, project themselves, interact in their own way, and create their own moments. Because that's what the con experience is really about. It's collecting moments and memories. And the real key is that if you can take a moment in time and if you can, attach an emotion to it, you'll never forget it. And so what are we doing? And that's my thoughts. What are we doing at every minute to create that emotional tether to this moment? I don't care if it's playing video games or playing Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, or going through the vendor hall or just hanging out in the lobby or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's either food or music, or both. And I think as long as you have those two things and you have this open space and create that time for people to interact, they're going to make the most of a 24-hour convention. I mean, it's not like, we're Disney World open 24 hours. And, I couldn't do Disney World 24 hours. 10 hours, I'd be ready to go home, done. Yeah. But Blerd kind of has a little bit more of an endurance to it because it's more organic energy, because you're talking, you're up because you're in a conversation with two people you just met from Detroit.
Yep.
Or you're at the bar hanging out with somebody you thought was too big a star to be sitting down talking to the likes of you, and you're a fan. Those are the kinds of things that I love about the Blerd space. And I think if we can continue to do that, even in the post-COVID era, people are going to walk away and be like, BlerdCon hasn't missed a step. Glad I made it out. Can't wait for 2022.
It's true. Now, if you could put yourself in the space of being a 23-year-old Black man who has the opportunity to go to BlerdCon for the very first time, what does that look like?
Well, there's some people that are self-described introverts who are very wary of going to conventions by themselves or solo, if you will.
Mhm.
And I understand that because as someone who had to kind of spearhead the promotional end of BlerdCon by hand, had to go to a lot of conventions alone that I didn't know people at,
Very
and it
true.
was kind of just emails and social media connections and stuff. People will tell you that BlerdCon feels like a family reunion. We actually had a theme for our second year was called the reunion after year one for that reason, and it's because when you walk into the space, you kind of feel like you're at home.
Hmm.
And for some people, they've never seen that before. When you walk into an alien space, you may never have been to Arlington, Virginia. You may have never been to DC. You may have never been to the Hyatt. You may not know anybody
Hmm.
directly other than maybe I saw them in social media or something like that. But when you walk in, everybody's kind of connected. We feel like, okay, we're in this safe space. You can walk up to someone you don't know and start speaking or join a conversation or play against them in a video game or playing Dungeons and Dragons. There's so much interactive stuff going on. Do not be afraid to take that adventurous leap and coming to BlerdCon for the first time. I would even go so far to say, for anyone for whom which this is your first convention at all, this
Mm.
is a great convention to start. Because one of the missions of BlerdCon is not just about creating a dope nerd space for Black people at BlerdCon, this 3 days out of 365 in one place during one time. It's also to help galvanize a community so that it better comes together at non-blurred conventions. We're starting to see that. When I go to other conventions, and I'll say, you go to MomoCon, you go to Otakon, you go to, Dragon Con, you go to New York Comic Con, Anime NYC, Philly Comic Con even, you're seeing more meetups, Black nerd photo shoot, Black cosplayers, the Wakanda theme, all this stuff. And we come together and we kind of like high-fiving and we're dapping and stuff. Even though this space is not necessarily defined for us, we are creating
Mhm.
connections in spaces that are not connected for us. And I think that there is something to be said about having a blurred space where you can say, oh, I can do that. Because I might be in Detroit, never been to Detroit. I might go to Detroit and go to a con and
Right.
see you. And if I do, I now have made this connection and we can come together. Or go to the fan page and be like, hey, where the Black folks gonna be at Houston Comic Con or
Yep.
whatever. And we are like, oh yeah, no, we're used to that now. We're getting more used to coming together in those spaces. So definitely come out. I say be ready, get yourself some sleep in that first night and come on Thursday. Okay. Because remember, we open the doors at noon. And usually for hotels, check-ins between 3 and 4. So you don't want to be messing around with bags and my plane just arrived, or I have to park my car. I got to offload my stuff. I got to check into my room. Got to go to registration. I got to do all this stuff. You might lose half a day one just getting into the convention if you're making Friday your day one. Pay the extra, $100 or $200, whatever it is. Come in on Thursday so you can wake up fresh, go hit the floor, do the welcome stuff, kind of be a part of that opening ceremony. And then, you got yourself an additional 8 hours of con that you didn't have to worry about, just all the other stuff that you got to do. So if you're 23 years old, first of all, bless, because I know your knees ain't gonna hurt when you're walking around. Use
Nah,
that energy. Get ready to dance. Wear breathable clothes. Get yourself some masks, that are gonna work for you, and
mhm.
maybe you have something that works with your cosplay,
Yeah,
and just be ready to socialize, man. We're ready to get back together, man. We're ready to hug it out.
definitely. And to put yourself ahead of the curve with this weekend and going forward, where do you see BlerdCon in the next couple of years?
Oh man, that's a good question. At one point before COVID, my vision for BlerdCon was to be able to do the convention not as this standalone event sitting at one point on the calendar like a lot of events do, like a holiday or something, but I wanted it to be a culminating event made up of a whole lot of smaller interactive events that are happening around the calendar and around the country
Mm.
that then come and culminate during that weekend, which means doing smaller pop-up events, doing events at other cons, bringing content to other nerd spaces, creating new nerd spaces in spaces that may not be designated for nerds. In 2019, I brought 50 cosplayers to Afropunk in Atlanta.
Mm.
And, you know, we did a big show out there and just kind of, you know, had this nerd out space where it's like, okay, we're going to pierce this veil, this very thin membrane between the Black punk community and the Black nerd community. And if we can bring those together, we'll double our power just like that. So
Right.
that's a mission I have with Afropunk, and we're working on that. We're also doing things with, you know, STEM. You know, we're in conversations with Afrotech out in Oakland from our partners and friends over at Blavity, that we're actually trying to do things to help kind of bring some of that cultural aspect to STEM outreach and STEM education and STEM careers. Because 99% of Black nerds, or 99% of engineers and people working in the Black tech sector are blerds.
Yeah,
You know, but they
indeed.
only experience their nerdness one-on-one. They watch their anime at home, or they read their comic books at home. They play their video games at home, but they don't go to cons and they don't go to common spaces. Part of my evangelical mission is to bring those blerds out of the closet and say, hey, there's a physical community that you can connect with that you have never had an opportunity to speak to directly, and we'd love to have you. And so, you know, come on out of your basement, come on out of your apartment, come on out of your workspace, and come enjoy this opportunity. So those are the kinds of things that we're hoping to do as much as we can in this fall, but definitely more so in the spring of 2022, to get more events out there, get more exposure, get more galvanizing and sticky events, I like to call them,
Right.
happening in your town. And, you know, maybe we can kind of create a little bit more of that year-round feel and spirit to convention than just the one weekend that we have every summer.
That's excellent, brother. So for anybody that has never been to BlerdCon, this weekend, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, correct?
Actually, 16th, 17th, and 18th.
16th, 17th, and 18th at the Hyatt in Hyatt Crystal City
Yep.
in DC.
Pretty much. It's if you know anything about the DC metro area,
Uh-huh.
you got a little river between us and DC. We're actually closer to DC than most parts of DC.
Okay.
We're about 500 yards from Reagan National Airport, right in Arlington, Virginia. A lot of easy ways to get there by train, by bus, by metro, by plane. And it's just a really, really, really great spot to have us. And, you know, when you see it, you'll know what we're talking about.
Of course, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me. This is excellent. Please, everybody that's listening out there, look forward to BlerdCon. If you're not going to make it this year, look forward to doing it in the next couple years. Hilton is guiding our way through the future as far as cosplay and the panels that are basically put forth on within a Black experience. And it's nothing but fabulous work that you guys have been doing for the past couple of years and going forward. And I only wish you guys the best. So I look forward to it every year now. I went
Yeah, well,
2 years
listen,
ago. I'm looking to
you
come.
got look, you're my friend. You're and my friend Darnell. He is going to get a swift kick to the shins if he don't get himself to BlerdCon soon. I've been talking to this brother way too long. I
Yes,
see
you
him
have.
everywhere, and we got to get him out, man. I told him, I said, man, you got to come on through. We got to make it work. And you know, even if it's not this year, it'll be next year. This is
Oh,
going to be a
happened next
breakout year, man. And we're really, really just super excited for what's going to happen this year. And you know, the weather's going to be great, and all the guests and all the fun and the
Right.
community is going to come out. And man, we can't wait. So, you know, guys, if you guys are coming out, keep an eye out for me, because I'll be keeping an eye out for you. Welcome home.
Indeed, man. So for anybody, BlerdCon this weekend, please hit up BlerdCon on all social media platforms. Am I correct? Twitter, IG,
Yes.
and Facebook.
Yep. We're even on Twitch a little bit,
There
but
you
you can
go.
definitely you can check us on our website, blerdcon.com. If you type in BlerdCon, if you're confused about where we may be on any social media platform, type in BlerdCon and you'll see our group on Facebook, our page, our events. Everything will come up. The community is there waiting for you. So come on in. It's going to be a blast, and we'd love to have you virtually and actually at the con space this weekend.
Definitely, man. And good luck and congrats on BlerdCon. So, Facts Project, Hilton George, appreciate you, brother. We are out.